Happy to be joined this week on the podcast by John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And, you know, John, I really want to start with the fact that this year it's almost like the football part of training camp. Nobody's really thinking about that as much as the logistic part of training camp and trying to find ways that everybody can make it to opening day unscathed. And I wonder, what has that been like as you for a coach? You want to win the Super Bowl, and normally in the course of a year, you're thinking about what are we doing to put ourselves in the best position to beat Cleveland on opening day. And now all these other things have sort of fogged your field of view. Explain what that's like for a head coach.
Well, that's a great point. And we can't afford not to be thinking about those things, the football things. I mean, maybe the coaches are the only ones, and the players, I do believe, who are thinking about that. So it's really just kind of on top and then also intertwined with all the other considerations that we have in terms of just getting to getting the opportunity to play. We've been talking a lot here in the last week. Everything's changed as far as our calendar, as far as when you can practice, where you can practice, how you can practice, who can practice when, how many minutes, how long you can walk through, when you can meet, to go along with all the other protocols that go with the COVID protection. It's been really a challenge to build the calendar and the daily schedules. And then within that, you've got to build all your situational football and all your training, how much you're going to practice without preseason games in terms of tackling, blocking, live work, scrimmage work, what we're going to install, how much we can install, what we can afford to install this year. Those are really, all those things are still going through coach's mind, because as you know, if we succeed, and I believe we will, to get to the point where we're playing football, we have to play well. We want to go out there and ourselves well. We want to be prepared. And as coaches, it's our jobs to prepare our teams. So make sure our guys are ready to go. And that's, I promise you, on all the 32 head coaches and all the assistant coaches, that's a big part of what we're all thinking about.
It's also got to be a very significant thing for you. Everybody decries preseason games and nobody loves them, but now here you are having none. So what has been your decision about how to replicate some of the scenarios you can see in preseason games, particularly for the, pick a number, 35, 40, 45 guys on your roster who you don't know if they're going to be on your team or not?
That's exactly right. And, there's already 10 less, and there will be, depends. We've gone to 80. There's 320 less players that are going to have an opportunity to make it in the National Football League. And that gets lost a little bit in the mix. And, you understand the reasoning mathematically and in theory and even practically. But Yogi Berra said, in theory, practice and theory are the same, but in practice they're not. And it was hard. It's a Yogi Berra, right? It was hard to talk to those 10 guys about why they're not going to get their shot, and they've earned it. And these guys are even guys that sign small signing bonuses sometimes, and even veteran players. So there are a lot of ramifications to this whole thing, and we've got to give these guys a chance to make. We don't want to miss out on players either. So, how do we script those situations? And they need to be kind of really competitive, like they would be in games, as much as possible. To get our team ready, especially to get our young guys ready, and then not to miss out on the those guys that are not in the 53-man roster right now, to give them a chance to see if they can make the team. Give them an opportunity.
Do you think your experience of being a head coach for 12 or 13 years in the NFL is an advantage in sort of a crazy year like this? Or, is Joe Judge the same as John Harbaugh this year, do you think? I mean, is there an advantage to being sort of a veteran guy?
I hope so, and Joe hopes not. We'll have to see how that plays out. But, experience always helps. I mean, you do have guys like Bill Belichick and who've been around forever. Mike Zimmer, who's been in the league all these years, and Sean and Mike Tomlin. Ron Rivera. I've been texting with Ron Rivera this morning about some ideas on meetings, but these are you have to have a kind of a sense, or it helps to have a sense of really what does matter. and what you can forego. Maybe make some wise decisions along those lines. I don't know. I hope so. We'll see. It's more of a college type training camp calendar as we put it together. It's not we haven't had a college. I hadn't been part of a college training camp for 23 years. But now my brother's doing it now, so that helps a little bit. But how you build that 3-week basically practice window up to your first game. Going into the first game, Peter, is going to be so interesting because you're not going to know anything. You have an idea. I'll watch tape of all the teams in preseason, and you get a good sense of kind of where they're going schematically and who they are personnel wise. There's none of that now. You're going to go into that game having no idea really where you are as a football team, just like college. Just like the college teams and open up and play their first game for real. That's going to be us this year.
Yeah, I heard Bill Belichick say that the other day, that when somebody was asking him about no preseason games, he said college football doesn't have any preseason games either. They just play. What would you say, John, if you were to isolate on one or two things has been the toughest for you guys to deal with as an organization, knowing that, obviously in week one of the season, you want to hit the ground running?
I'd say the first toughest thing is just the building and all the changes of operating. We're coaching with masks. We're lifting weights with masks. We've got the weight room divided up and broken up in different areas. All the logistics have been really a challenge. I got to give our organization credit. Steve, Dick Cass has been incredible, our team president, but everybody's worked so hard. We built cafeterias out. Our cafeteria's been built out 3 times as large. Meeting rooms spaced out. We do have a lot of space. We put dots and lines and, man, everything you can think of everywhere. Everybody, like you saw me with the wipes. It's what we're doing, because we want to protect each other. That's been one thing. And then the second thing has been the organization of the training camp itself and making sure everybody's in the right spot, to make use of the time we have. I don't want to have a lot of dead time. I want to get our guys ready. But there's a lot of rules that got put in place that we have to follow. And rightly so. So, those are the logistical aspects of it are the biggest things. The other part, the players being ready to go and excited. The players, I think, are concerned. And you see in the negotiations, they asked all the right questions and it got a lot of great things, I think, through, which really helped us. So I give the Players Association a lot of credit there and the players on the committee. J.C. Treader and company did a great job of that. But the guys want to play. There are a few guys opting out. We had 2 guys opt out. Totally respect their decisions. And they did the right thing for their families. The guys I've seen who are here, man, they want to play football and they're excited to start practice. So that part of it's been pretty easy.
It also, I want to ask you 2 football things. I wonder, basically, it was 6.5 months that you did not have your hands on your players, And the last time you coached a game, obviously, was a huge disappointment for your organization and for you, for your quarterback when you lost the playoff game to Tennessee. But how did you attempt in that period of time to have some sense of normalcy around your team?
Well, a lot of communication, certainly, the phone is really a valuable tool, and texting is a big part of it with our guys. Young guys like to text. We had the Zoom. We had the stuff we're doing right now with the podcast, Peter. We did that with our guys. We had Zoom meetings. We had Zoom workouts. Our guys were in workouts all through the offseason with Zoom. Steve Saunders, our strength coach, and his staff did a great job with that, and our guys worked really hard. So that was.
Did your strength coaches actually watch players work out, and did they have interactive kind of workout sessions with players?
Yeah, that's how we did it. We built the whole program as if, we didn't have the equipment. We had to do a lot of it with bands and with whatever equipment different guys had. So they had to really work hard we got our players in different groups based on really what kind of equipment they had access to. And then we put them into different workout groups that way. So they were, they had the cameras and tripods and we were talking back and forth. We did it with coaches twice a week. We had 2 coaches workouts twice a week. So I was able to see how that kind of worked. And they were tough workouts, man. They were challenging. So we really went, I think, above and beyond. We really did everything we possibly could do to keep the connections with our players, really just from a process standpoint, a work a work ethic kind of standpoint and try to do the jobs of football remotely as much as we could. And so I feel like we did a good job of that. We'll see how it pays off here.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit about Lamar Jackson. He's the MVP of the league, and then you guys as a team and he don't play very well in that playoff game. And I wonder, how much discussion have you had with him about that game? What are you able to discern from that game that maybe you guys learned from?
Well, he and I have talked about it pretty much every time we talk. It comes up in some form or fashion. So we've talked about it a lot. I don't think we've had any defining moments where the heavens opened up. We know what happened. It's simple. It's pretty simple in terms of how we played the game. Plays get made, plays don't get made. Our opponent, Tennessee, played great. They played a really solid, well played Mike Vrabel type football game. I thought they were physical and tough, and they blocked and they tackled and they threw and they caught, and they played special teams really well, and they beat us. So that's what it is, and it happens in football. So we're not re-questioning everything, but we learn, I think, from experience. That's what a culture is. It's shared experience, shared understanding. So by sharing that experience, I think we share an understanding of how we grow going forward and become better, in those situations. But long before we get back to that situation, we've got to get back to that situation. So we've got to focus on having a good training camp, the best we can possibly have, and then playing well in September.
One other question about you and Lamar Jackson. He talks very highly of his relationship with you. He talks about how you listen to him, which obviously a coach is going to listen to the quarterback, but not just, in a meeting type situation, but during games. I wonder, John, can you remember a time during a game last year, preferably, but maybe the previous year, where he comes to the sidelines and convinces you of something, or you have a discussion about something and maybe you change your mind about what you want to do based on what you see in him?
Yeah, honestly, it happens every game in some degree, and certainly kind of in every practice. You're having those running conversations. So again, that shared understanding, experience, and vision is it just goes with the territory. I think Lamar is he's easy to communicate with because he's such an open person, and he's honest, and he's passionate, and he wants to be great, and he's not afraid to tell you what he thinks, and I try to make sure he's not afraid to tell me what he thinks. The Seattle game is the biggest example of it, where, we'd gone from 3rd and 14 to like 3rd and 2.5. And you really don't expect on 3rd and 13 to be going for it on 4th down. So it really wasn't on my mind. My mind was to get the field goal team out there. And he scrambles and makes a ridiculously great play, gets the ball down to 3rd and 2 inside the 10. And I kind of just felt like, it's a little long for 4th and 2. I think we were going to maybe go up by 6, or I can't remember exact score, but we were going to get a little lead there. Maybe we're going to go up by 3. Maybe we were tied. But it was, and he was winded. I felt like, it's like, gosh, he just ran that play. Maybe kick it. You got to make a decision as second. And it was a U-turn a little bit. So he's coming off the field, and I could just see in his face, man, he was so ticked off, and I'm like,
he's so ticked off that he thinks you're going for the field goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we're surrendering. I could just say anything to him. He just looked at me, and I'm like, what? You want to go for it? He's like, heck yeah, he might have said something else, and I want to go for it. And then, so right then I said, and I just clicked. I don't know, just go for it, So I said, go for it. And maybe we called timeout. So I had to run down and call timeout because the play clock was ticking down. And then I heard him go to Marshall. You want to go for it? Because he's like thinking, he's so honest, he's thinking, am I right? So he's got to check with Marshall. And Marshall's like, heck yeah, we need to go for this. So, when your players feel that way, it's easy. But there have been other times, Peter, where he's wanted to do things or change plays or do something else that, we've said, no, we can't do that. This is why we're doing something else. And he's great about that too. He he's part of the team, and that's what I love about him.
John, why does Baltimore love this guy so much?
Oh man, it's the country too. Okay, so let me share this with you, and for these reasons, so we go to Cleveland and we go to Los Angeles, okay, for the Monday night game, and TJ Houshmandzadeh comes out to the field. I haven't seen him for a while. We text every now and then. It's like, man, what's up? We're hugging. He goes, I go, what are you doing here? He goes, I didn't know you guys were playing the Rams 3 weeks ago. Monday night, I wasn't keeping up that closely with what's going forward. My 9-year-old son came up and told me Lamar's coming to town, Daddy. We got to go see Lamar play. How about that? So then his son was over there in the sideline. He came over and he got to meet Lamar. Then we go to Cleveland and I've got a good friend of mine who's a high school coach at Wapakoneta High School. Over on Highway 75 and down to 10,000 people. And he wants to bring his boys and their friends. So I get to meet these kids after the game. And listen, they're Ohio farm kids. They're as blonde-haired and blue-eyed as you could ever see. And I said, who's your favorite team? And I know they're Browns fans. They go Ravens. I'm like, Ravens, really? Why? And they go all four of them at the same time. Lamar, Lamar. It's made us into a more national team because he's that kind of guy. The same reason that Baltimore loves him too. He's honest. He's genuine. He's real. He's just he's a good guy. He's 22 years old. I don't want to make more of it than it is. He's likable. He keeps it simple. He keeps it about football. I think he understands his way of making a mark is to make a mark where God put him, which is as a quarterback. And in our times, Peter, if we want to dig into this thing, very many layers and facets to this conversation about Lamar. And he is kind of in the center of this, I don't say storm, opportunity, storm, reality of our world right now in very symbolic kind of ways, very meaningful ways. And he just handles it so just great, humbly and genuinely. And he cares about, he loves people at the same time. But he doesn't back down. He's not afraid to be who he is or how he feels like what he was called to be, And I think people see that. They see that genuineness in him.
I have no idea about demographics. I don't know what the numbers would say about this, but this is just my sense. Coming to a Ravens game 3 or 4 years ago, the crowd to me seemed 95% white. And last year, I went to your game against the Patriots, and I bet it was 25% or 30% black. And I just said, this crowd is starting to look a little bit more like this city, and this region. And I have no idea if that's true or not. And I'm sure you're not sitting there on draft day a couple of years ago saying, well, let's take Lamar Jackson because he's black. But clearly there seems to have been a major response in your city to the fact that you've got Lamar Jackson, a black quarterback sort of leading your team.
Yeah, it really is cool. And it's, like you said, it's about race because, everything's about everything, and race is a big part of everything. But that's not why we took him. We took him because we believed in him as a quarterback and as a person and as a, future face of the franchise. And I can tell you, black or white, in our area, you got Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And hey, there's a lot of, African Americans who live in Baltimore County. There's a lot of, white people that live in Baltimore City, but the demographics are what they are. So there's a little bit of a just like most cities in America, it's kind of built this way. And there are other kind of cultural differences and divides and economic differences and divides that are realities. But I can tell you, the Baltimore County area, they love Lamar. The Baltimore City, they love Lamar. PG County, they love Lamar. Howard County, they love Lamar. He transcends all that. But also bringing Baltimore City more into our stadium. So we would have 2 stadium practices every summer. And I've had tears. I've actually had tears and been choked up driving into these summer practices many times because most all that crowd is African American. I admit I shouldn't most. It's probably 50-50 because, but it's free and it's local, and from a demographic standpoint, socioeconomically, that's an opportunity to get into the NFL stadium to walk in and see that green, that purple and that green, that beautiful stadium for free. Okay. And I see dads and moms. I can remember driving to the stadium and seeing a dad, with his Ravens, his kids with their Ravens jerseys, and they're not the expensive ones either, and he's holding his kids' hands 2 hours before the practice starts, and they're walking to the stadium. I get chills thinking about it to this day. The pride that I know that man felt to take his kids into the stadium, all right, to be a part, to be able to do that for his kids, for his boys, and I just think that's sports, man. That's where we have a chance to change things and unite people, and to get on a stage and to make a statement is one thing, but just to live it and to create an opportunity is another thing. And all of our eyes are more open to all of these kind of issues, and it's socioeconomic, it's race, it's single parent families, it's education, it's all these things. And for, to create opportunities to get people in our stadium is big, and it's so expensive to come to a game, Peter. Maybe we can need to do more to create opportunities, but Lamar is bringing more, more minority fans, more black fans into the stadium for sure. And you're right, that night, you saw it better than I did, but that was a powerful night. That was a powerful, powerful thing. If you think of it in those terms, man. Thanks for bringing that up.
I wasn't going to ask you this, but it sort of rung in my head when I talked to Lamar this week. One of the things he said to me was, I said, man, it must have been really cool to be the MVP and to accept the most valuable player award in your hometown, surrounded by the people who love you, in Miami. And he didn't respond the way I thought he would respond. I thought he would say, oh man, the lifetime dream, well, all that stuff. He's bitter that he's not in the Super Bowl, and he said, it's for me, it's obviously, and I'm paraphrasing him, I'm sure he loves winning the MVP. Who wouldn't? But for him, he was really unhappy that he wasn't in the game the next day in Miami rather than winning some award. So that must be something that you like about him, especially the sort of team emphasis.
Absolutely. I mean, football's the ultimate team sport, Peter. And I would say Lamar Jackson is the ultimate team player. I mean, that's exactly how he sees it. Now, you're right. Someday he's going to look back on that, and that's going to be one of those moments that, man, he's going to cherish it. And I saw him beforehand. There was different stages for these different events, and I was down there and I was walking with some friends, and we were coming across the hotel, and I saw Lamar standing with his mom in front of his hotel, which was next to the hotel that we were at. And he was waiting for the car to pick him up to take him to whatever he had to go to. And he had his like his orange or purple jacket with the lion or the African wild dog in the back. Yeah. And he was like, he had this look on his face like he was tolerating this, and his mom has a big smile on her face, So I feel like, it was he got it more than he did because, she's our age. She's been down the roads a little bit and understands the meaning of it. But Lamar, he enjoyed it, and it did mean something to him. And I think to his teammates, because he did feel like they were part of it. And he said that, but no, man, he even said it, coach, we got to be playing. We got to be playing in this game. We should be playing in this game. That's all he carries around with him, 24/7. Of course, as a head coach, I love it.
I'll end with this. You not only have to worry about coming back and playing great again this year. You not only have to worry about surviving COVID. You not only have to worry about this weird training camp and all this other stuff, but I also think something big that happened this offseason that every coach in the league is going to have to be concerned about to some degree and is going to have to figure out how to handle, and that is the death of George Floyd. And, Black Lives Matter. We've seen how in baseball and in basketball, players have handled it. It's become a significantly important event in the lives of so many players in sports. And clearly, with the vast majority of NFL players being Black and the meaning to them, have you thought much about how your team is going to handle that this year, and what will happen during the anthem, and how you will help your players sort of recognize what that all means at this moment in history?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to. And it's not like all of a sudden, though, this has appeared, Peter. This is something that we have, especially with our team since 2016 and 2017 in London. This has been a topic for us for many years. So this is not new. I think it's great and good that it's in the forefront of our minds. I hate the reason for it, but the fact that it is because we have a problem, and it's not something that I think is all of a sudden we've got to deal with. I mean, we've been having these conversations for at least 4 years here in our building, and our position. My position personally as a human being or as a coach, a man, hasn't changed, and our organization has stood firm with what we believe. And we took a lot of criticism for it 3 years ago, from even fans and stuff like that. And I'm glad. I think now I think we're in a better place because I think there's a much better understanding in our country about the message that guys are the statement that they're making, and the reason they're making it and why they're making it. And these are, I would say 100% of the players that I've talked to, they love America, and they want and expect America to redeem itself into the value, to use the words of John Lewis, to redeem themselves into what it was created to be. And that's should be all of our goal. So how we go about doing it or symbolizing it or messaging it, or the statements that we make are each individual person's to make. And that's a position we've had in Baltimore from the day it happened in London in 2017 until now. And that'll continue to be where we stand on it.
John Harbaugh, really appreciate you taking all this time. And it's kind of an interesting time both in football and in society. And I appreciate you touching on all these topics.
My pleasure, Peter. You're the best. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.